Alright, so the last devlog was Devlog 2. I think I published that on version 11.0, which was almost 10 days ago. So I've shipped a lot of features and bug fixes and refactoring since then. As you can see, scrolling through, we're all the way up to the minor version 0.27. And I want to walk through some of the main changes I made in this application in case you guys are curious. So first thing you might hear is that we have a little bit of background music, which basically plays when you're not currently in an active combat wave. And when the combat wave starts, there's another layer of music that plays on top that kind of give it a faster pace. Both of these were created in 11 Labs. Like I literally used AI to generate both of these ambient horror type of sounds. And then also some of the sound effects were created by 11 Labs as well. Like I literally just prompt it and it creates a cool like zombie moan effect or something. So you can hear the music gets a little bit more fast paced and you still have that background music playing underneath it. All right, the second thing that's been changed is when the car explodes, basically instead of just making everyone die and losing the round, I spawned 200 zombies that basically swarm in and kill you, which I feel like was a little bit more intriguing than just like ending the game for everybody. Like now there's just tons of zombies. There's no way you're going to win. And if you could beat that final wave, I would actually be surprised. Some more changes. I don't remember if this was in the last video, but we have a buy menu. Someone worked on this. Someone in the Discord worked on this, which by the way, if you're curious to contribute to this game, you can join my Discord and you can ask what features you could potentially add in. But basically you can sell every item in your inventory and then you can use that same money to buy back items. So notice I just bought a bandage and I can use that to heal myself. You can also go around and sell items. So if I wanted to sell some of these knives I picked up or the weapons, I can do that and then exchange it for, I don't know, a baseball bat. And now I can actually use the baseball bat to actually attack other zombies. Now I don't remember what weapons I talked about last video, but I do think I added like 3. I added a bow and arrow, throwing knives, and a Molotov cocktail. The round's gonna end. Let me just throw the Molotov cocktail so you guys can see. So basically it's a weapon you throw, it blows up and it makes flames, and these will catch all the zombies on fire. All right, let's go over here. Let's spawn the throwing knives. These are weapons where you can like throw them and they don't actually get lost. Like you can re-pick them up after you kill the zombie. The bow and arrow is very similar as well. So let me show the bow and arrow. If I go down here to the ammo, we got some arrow ammo, and you can shoot the arrows at people. And then if you hit the zombie, it goes into their inventory. So when they die, you can loot them and get the arrow back. So kind of like an infinite type of resource item, which is pretty good for the early game. Another thing I added was the energy drink. So you can click on this and you can use it. And now you can run for like 20 seconds without your stamina bar depleting. You can see that it turned blue. And now I can basically just keep running. I did a lot with balancing. So before you could make it to like wave 11 or 12 with like no issue because there's so much weapons and items on the ground. So I went into the ratios of like when stuff spawns on the ground and like the chance that stuff would be looted from zombies, and I reduced all those. So finding weapons, items, and ammo is just like a little more scarce. So it really makes you consider every shot that you take. And I wanted people to leverage melee attack a little bit more because you can actually kite these zombies. Like you can get good at using your melee and never actually getting hit. Well, that time I messed up. And so there's different types of weapons you could basically use. Let me just go ahead and spawn a baseball bat. Like this one will kill a zombie in 2 hits, and it has a little bit further range, I believe. So you can, you know, do some pretty good kiting there. It just has a slower cooldown, so like you can't just keep on spamming it as much as you can the knife. Another cool thing that was added was screen shake. So if you have the shotgun and you fire, notice that my whole camera shakes and my player actually gets knocked back a little bit. So that just kind of added a little bit of immersion. I do believe this happens to a lot of the weapons as well. If not, I need to go through and tweak that. We have an AK-47. Let me just fast switch to it. Yeah, there's a little bit of screen shake here. I would think a little bit of knockback would be cool as well. Same thing with a grenade. You throw the grenade and like you'll notice the whole screen kind of like shakes. Let me go back to the changelog and see if there's anything that I could talk about. So we did add new bosses. So let's go down here. I'm going to spawn the acid flyer. So this boss basically gets to the center of your campsite and drops these acid things. And if you walk over them, you'll get poisoned and it hurts you for 3 damage. And these boss zombies spawn at various waves. So like, I think this is like wave 7, this one will spawn, which makes it a little bit more challenging when there's a bunch of zombies coming in from all angles. And you got to be careful not to walk over the acid as you're navigating your base and finding the zombies that are coming in. This one has a decent amount of health, so I think it might take me some time to kill it. Instead, I'll just refresh the game. Another boss zombie we have, let me just show you all the boss zombies. We have a charging tyrant. So they basically will charge at a player and then explode, causing some damage and kickback. Okay, so that one's pretty cool. Here's another boss which spawns on wave like 3 or 4. Basically, it's like a necromancer. It keeps on spawning different waves of zombies. And it does a decent amount of damage if it manages to hit you. Alright, and the last boss that we have is the splitter zombie. So I'm gonna go ahead and just make the splitter. And I'll show you. When he gets to 50% health, he splits in half. And then they run faster, but they have less health. Okay, so those are the 4 bosses. I do plan to add in some more bosses, and those will spawn at various points of the game. We also added 2 in-game environments. So I have a thunderstorm environment, which changes the way the map looks, and also a toxic gas event. So we're going to go ahead and just let that spawn real quick. And notice that the thunderstorm says it's approaching. It starts raining a little bit, and there is a random lightning strike that happens every like 2 to 12 seconds, which will damage any player in the map for 1 HP. I do need to add like a thunderstorm sound effect when that actually happens to make it more intriguing, but that's one event. Let me show you the other one. The other one is a toxic gas event. This one's interesting because it basically spawns toxic gas across different areas in the map, and then the gas will grow and basically spread. Let's see if I can find a toxic cloud. Okay, so here's the cloud. Basically, you'll see in the minimap over here, it's slowly spreading throughout the map, and if you accidentally get hit by this, again, it does some poison damage for 3 seconds. And it just basically spreads the entire game round. You can see there's one also spreading on the left side. So it just adds a little bit of dynamics to like how you're exploring the map. If this toxic cloud were to spawn when you're exploring, it may make getting back home a little bit challenging. Or if it randomly spreads over your main base, like it's going to be hard to fight zombies while this cloud is kind of slowly spreading. So those are the 2 in-game events we have. I do plan to think of some more and add those in. Maybe like a firestorm event where, you know, these trees can catch on fire and it slowly spreads to the trees. I wanted to make it like change to burnt trees after that happened. But I'm not really sure about that. I need to keep thinking if that would be useful or not. Okay, so this whole thing is about like the lightning bolt added. This one is about the toxic gas and energy drinks. There's an automatic respawn. So when you die, there's a timer of 5 seconds and then you just respawn. There's no press any key to respawn anymore. This release was all about that merchant UI panel, add balance configurations system, implement individual player cooldowns for car repairs. Okay, so yeah, every player can repair the car at the same time. We noticed that like with multiple people in the game, you couldn't just like quickly repair the car. Everyone was trying to repair, but it still was like limited to 1 a second. So now if you have 5 people repairing, it'll be 5 repairs a second, which would really heal the car real fast, which is kind of necessary when the car gets low health. Like you have to go in and just get that thing healed up. Here's the splitter boss. This one is the acid flyer boss, the grave tyrant, and the charging tyrant. Actually, I think this is just refactoring. I'm not sure why that's there. This one we added the car exploding and basically spawning 200 zombies. This one is mainly working on the merchant panel and the merchant UI. Release 20.0 was throwing knives, Molotov cocktails, smoke particles. So that the smoke particles is this, like you'll see these little black particles floating around. Like it kind of gives a more like apocalyptic type of environment where like you imagine there's flame stuff and there's ashes floating everywhere. So I added that in. Weapon switch, another Discord user worked on this one, which is actually very nice when you're in the middle of combat and you run out of ammo. It's nice to be able to quickly switch. We also added in a quick switch with Q. So like if you had a pistol open and a knife, you can quickly switch back to what you had open. So you can kind of switch between those weapons. I do think there's a little bug if you have like the pistol selected, it kind of breaks that. So I need to fix that. I added in the ability to ban users. So like there was one user who kept on reconnecting over and over to the server. So I have like a max reconnect of 5 every second. And if you reach that, it bans you for like 5 minutes. Oh yeah, we did a lot of inventory changes. So you can actually drag and drop items between your inventory slots. And then you can also drop them on the ground like this. So another feature was the press E to interact. So like the walls and other things that are like placed onto the ground, you have to hold down E to pick them up because like we had an issue with multiple items spawning on top of each other. And often like you'd end up picking up all your base items, like your walls and your sentry guns, just to try to get to some ammo that was underneath. We also have it so the closer you are to the item, it changes the display of the item so you know which one you're about to pick up. And then also there was some work done by a Discord user to change the ordering of these to make them stack on top of each other. They were all like combined and you could not read them. So that was a nice little fix that got added. We also have a teleport back to base button. So like you'll notice if I'm outside of the campsite and I hold down C, there's a progress indicator for 3 seconds and then you get teleported back to base. We added this because like you'd often go exploring somewhere And the rounds are pretty short. Like they're only like a minute before the next wave starts. And walking back to base was taking so long that you basically be dead. So we added in the ability to just teleport back to base in case like you're in a time crunch. Now, sometimes you add features that aren't truly realistic to the game. Like you could probably have a portal show up and then like you get sucked in and teleported back to base if you wanted to make it more like, if you wanted to make it like work. But honestly, just having the ability to quickly get back to base was something that was important for the gameplay. I think adding a portal animation will kind of make it more fit in to the game theme. And then also when zombies spawn, maybe we could have portals appear and then the zombies basically come out of the portals. I think having a portal will make the lore a little bit more understandable. And then we just did a bunch of performance tuning. Like I basically spent a ton of time refactoring all the networking, refactoring using spatial grids on the front end and the back end, refactoring using delta compressions of the network, making sure we're not sending over too much stuff. I did performance tuning on the server to only update entities that are near players. And then entities that are very, very far away from players, like we don't update them as often because who's going to step over a trap? So you don't need to go and keep on updating to see if someone stepped over the trap or not. At one point, I refactored from socket.io to UWeb sockets, which made the networking much more performant. And then I reduced the bandwidth by just doing a bunch of like a byte arrays. I did my own custom serialization and deserialization of the bytes. Oh yeah, I added a bunch of like memoization to the pathfinding. So like one thing I noticed is that the zombies would keep on running a pathfinding operation every time they walk to try to figure out how to get from this cell to this player. But if you think about it, this whole path can be cached, and every single starting point and endpoint along that path can be cached as well. So if I were to kind of like have a zombie spawn in the same location twice, they can both just look up what's the most efficient path from here down to here. So basically, as it's running, it's just caching all the different permutations and combinations of paths inside of memory. And I'm getting like 50 to 60% cache hit every single time. So that's shaved down on a bunch of the pathfinding computations. I think there's also a bunch of areas where like errors were happening on the back end and like I wasn't properly catching them. And so the whole server would just crash based on one error. So I kind of put some work into that. Also did a bunch of performance tuning on various parts throughout the application by using like the debugger to really dive down into like where stuff was taking the most time. You can see down here, the render takes about 1.5 milliseconds. This was up to like 8 or 9 seconds. And so on slow computers, they would get like 20 FPS or 10 FPS, which is really killing their ability to play. Also, I noticed that we weren't actually using the delta times that calculate the prediction of the client. So on a very slow computer, the player would just act very sluggish because even if a second went by, like it wouldn't teleport them based on like the time elapsed. I think that's about it. I think the actual like game engine for the client and the server is pretty locked down. Like it's pretty performant. We can have a lot of people playing the same server. It's not too laggy. We can have a bunch of zombies spawn. As you can tell, when the car explodes, you get like 200 different zombies that walk around just fine, no issue. And now it's just a matter of like figuring out and tuning down the gameplay and balancing to make it enjoyable and fun. And then also probably adding in an auth system. That's like the next thing I want to plan to add in is an auth system so you can actually track your progress, maybe have achievements or badges, and maybe have like a loadout screen where you can actually pick some certain items or maybe custom skins to start the game with, just to kind of make it a little bit more fun and to give people a reason to keep coming back, to keep playing. Right? Having some type of like level up system or like a progression where you can get new items or new skins is just something that just puts the icing on the cake to make people want to keep playing. Right now it's fun and I enjoy playing it. Like we play with a couple people on Discord for like 30 minutes and like I actually had fun playing this. Now it's just a matter of like making it really good. Like there's still stuff that we're trying to figure out. Like right now when you walk around, you have to press E all the time. And so there's some things that we can kind of tune to make it just auto pick up. For example, if we already have pistol ammo in our inventory and you were to walk over the pistol ammo, it just makes sense to automatically pick it up at this point. We also talked about like refactoring the inventory system. Right now, like when you're playing, you just have a bunch of weapons that take up all your inventory. Like the weapons and the ammo eat up this whole inventory bar and you don't have space to actually like do the crafting. And so we may move all the weapons and the ammo into a separate inventory, like this radial inventory, so that we can actually leave space for more crafting. Maybe we can add more craftable items, special items. Like for example, there's gasoline that you need to be able to make the Molotov cocktail. So if you pick this up and you also pick up a cloth, notice you can now craft the Molotov cocktail. So I think adding more of those like really special items that do take up an inventory slot that you need to craft different weapons, I think would be pretty cool. I think the sentry gun requires a pistol now, so if we move that out to the radio menu, I'd have to figure out a different special resource for crafting that one out. But all right, my last remark is we did a lot of progress in 10 days, and I would say that an LLM at this point has probably written 90 to 95% of all the code in this game engine, which in my opinion is absolutely crazy. There's a lot of people who still hate on AI and think AI is stupid. But to me, it's a no-brainer. I think I spent like maybe $120 to build out this entire game, which if I were to hire someone to build this out for me, I'm going to tell you right now, it would take a lot more than $120 if I had to pay somebody. And if I were to take the same amount of time it took me to build out all these features, it would take in a lot more than how much I spent using the LLM to kind of create all these features. And it's not too bad. Like once you actually get into the flow of using an LLM, you just prompt it to refactor the code that it's creating to make your system a little bit more manageable. I will say I never built a multiplayer game engine before. And so a lot of the code is pretty sloppy. And it's not sloppy because of the LLM, it's sloppy because I haven't gone through and like reanalyzed the proper way to build the engine. I'm kind of like going through piece by piece. Every day I kind of analyze what's broken, what needs to be refactored. I prompt the LLM to fix it, and it basically refactors my code. But it's still, you have to be the one driving the LLM and navigating it. You're kind of like the director of the movie. And if you don't have a general idea of like how the code should look and operate, and you can't articulate the design patterns you want to apply to your code base to make it efficient and performant and maintainable, like the LLM's not really going to help you as much, right? And so there's a lot of stuff that if you don't know how to build a proper multiplayer game engine, you're going to have some sloppy code, and it's going to take some time to like make it better. But from 10 days from the last update to today, I think we added a decent amount of stuff. So like always, there's the Discord channel you guys can join if you want to contribute to this game. Check out the Survive the Night channel. And other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed. Have a good day and happy coding.